Good morning. It's Thursday morning here in Cypress, Texas. So I got this morning and I'm reading my scriptures, and you know, the first verse of Psalms 35 is what popped out at me. Contend, O Lord, with those who contend with me. Fight, O Lord, with those who fight with me. It's goes to that vengeance is mine, says the Lord. You know, uh, we're there's this power that's given us as long as we there's things that prevent us from having access to it. Fear is a big one, and fear and doubt, and we need faith. You know, got to condition our minds to think to the future, to think to those, the getting our imagination. Imagination is the language of God. All right, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that we've been taught it's wrong, and it's been, you know, it's been disguised as truth, and that's something. The a bunch of things, whole bunch of things. You know, makes me think of the Australian hash run, and I've talked about it before. It's where you have a race. Everybody gets a whistle. There's only two people that know the race, the course of the race, and the destination. And they get a 10-minute head start. They each have a bag of flour, a roll of toilet paper, and some chalk. And they mark with the flour, the chalk, and the toilet paper. One marks the correct path, and the other marks false paths. And at the end of each false path, they mark it's a bullseye in the dirt with a fistful of flour in the middle, or a stick in the middle with the toilet paper on it. You know, they're and so you're running, and as long as you think you're staying on the right path, you blow the whistle. And when you that way, so when you get lost, you go on the wrong path. You know how to find the right trail by listening to the whistles, right? And it's really interesting because you'll think you're ahead, you think you're winning, and then you figure out you're on the wrong trail. You gotta oh man, I gotta run back and catch up, and you know, and and at the end there's a party, a barbecue and keg of beer, and and but it's a good exercise in leadership, you know, And when you when you you know, when somebody's taking you down the wrong path, there's going to be indicators. Okay, and you got to be listening to the ones who are on the right path. You know, you'll listen to their voice, the right voice, and you'll know it. You'll know it when you hear it. You know, and in the early church teaching, right? The early church. This is really interesting. This pictorial language, this Hebrew language, is of God. It's how, um, man, it got hijacked in Egypt, and then it got um, Moses had to be retaught it when he went up to Mount Sinai. With tablets, Ten Commandments, he had to relearn this language, this pictorial language, and teach it to the Jews. He had to, because they lost it all when they went to Egypt. Okay, and the Egyptians, their hieroglyphics, right? It's a similar pictorial language, right? It's not the same. It's not the same as Hebrew language, but it is a pictorial language. When you look into the, you know, the pyramids and all the hieroglyphics, that's all pictorial, right? And each little symbol, each little picture has its own story and its own meaning. It's a third dimension in the language. You know, it's you can look at the letter of the word of the law, and it'll have a meaning. But when you look at the pictorial meaning of these words, it like opens up a whole different meaning and intent to these words. Okay, and David in Psalms and Solomon Proverbs, they're playing around with it, right? Like trees represent a leader. Okay, and depends on the fruit that they bear, whether they're a good leader or a bad leader. You know, when he's talking about the axe is at the root of the cedar. Okay, you know, in Love Lebanon, he's not just talking about trees. He's talking about some opposing leader, opposed to God and David, that need to be taken out. And I don't know who those were, but I know there was someone because of what I'm reading. All right. Have a great Thursday.